McKinsey actually, for 5 years now, has been conducting its global survey on AI, and they survey thousands of business leaders on how they use artificial intelligence. And this year's findings are now actually out in the State of AI in 2022 article or summary that they put out. And there's a ton to unpack in that, so it's definitely worth checking out the show notes and the link. But three big things really jumped out at me, and I know you've got a lot of thoughts on connecting the dots here. But first, they found over the last 5 years of data that they've collected that AI adoption has more than doubled in the last 5 years based on these self-reported findings. They also found that the average number of AI capabilities being used by organizations, like natural language generation, computer vision, those have also doubled. And that natural language text understanding has become one of the more leading AI applications being used. Now, in addition to that, they're also seeing AI investment increase. And what's really interesting is, aside from the increases year over year, today, the biggest reported revenue impacts from AI investments in what area of the business is now actually in marketing and sales, which is really interesting to see. And that's compared to areas that were not related to that at all back in 2018. Things like manufacturing and risk management were kind of the bigger applications where companies were using AI to actually achieve revenue increases. And then last but not least, kind of what really jumped out at me as well is that when it comes to gaining more AI talent, they found that the most popular strategy among respondents was actually reskilling their existing employees, given how difficult it can be to source AI talent. Now, this is across both, computer programmers, data scientists, machine learning engineers, more building the technology, but it's also related to analysts, to AI product managers, and business analysts who are working on these projects. So, and the most common approaches there are actually things like self-directed online courses and certifications, which we just talked about, and I thought was really fascinating. I mean, what were your kind of initial thoughts on the findings McKinsey put together?
So yeah, I mean, McKinsey is obviously one we followed for a long time. Anybody who's attended like our Intro to AI for Marketers class or really heard me give any keynotes on the topic will often cite the McKinsey Global Institute study from 2018 that looked at the 9 business functions, including supply chain, marketing and sales, ops, and compared like the growth potential where the value creation was going to come from. And even in then, they found marketing and sales to actually be the largest value potential area. So I think I don't know that it's discouraging, but you talked about that adoption has doubled since 2017, but it also has largely plateaued over the
Mhm.
last 3 years. So it's kind of been resting like right around like 50% or something of the people they survey. And I think they surveyed around 1,500 executives. I'm assuming it's mostly large enterprises. I glanced at the methodology. It didn't say the size of company, but I'm assuming it's like $1 billion plus mostly companies based on McKinsey's history. So, I think there has been a bit of a plateauing. We've talked, I think I've talked on the podcast before about the Fermi paradox and how I felt that way with AI of all these years. So again, quick recap, Fermi paradox is, Fermi looks into the sky, I don't know, hundreds of years ago, says, where's all the intelligent life? So we have this vast universe, and yet there's no intelligent life that we're aware of out there. It's a paradox. I've always felt that way with AI. It's like, it seems like it should just be everywhere. Like, you look at what AI is capable of doing, you look at intelligent automation, you look at improving personalization, you look at improved and enhanced decision making and creativity and predictive capabilities and all these ways you can reduce costs and accelerate revenue. It seems like, well, obviously everybody should be doing AI. And yet we look around and we try and find CMOs who understand it and brands who get it and are willing to talk about it. And we couldn't, like, for years, we struggled to find case studies. And it was always kind of frustrating to me, and I couldn't figure out why. And then a lot of different things kind of came to light in the last few years as to why that was happening previously. And so I think in general, I'm not surprised that it's plateaued. I do think that that is going to change in 2023. So I
Mm.
think what we have experienced with generative AI and the accessibility of the technology, the simplifying of use cases, the movement toward no code, less training data, all of these things that are making AI way more accessible now. I could see that dramatically increasing to where it goes from like 50% and maybe it jumps 10 full points next year or something. I could really see it jumping. Um, so I think there's going to be an acceleration of it. The reskilling part jumped out to me as you had highlighted because I don't know what the other option is, honestly. Like if you think about the building and integration of artificial intelligence historically has been a technical endeavor. Like you've needed AI researchers and machine learning engineers and people who can build things. What we need now is people who understand what the technology is and how to apply it for business cases.
Mm,
So we don't necessarily need to go hire 20 AI researchers or 50 machine learning engineers if you're a brand in any industry, retail, manufacturing, insurance, financial services, it doesn't matter. What you need are marketers and ops people and business leaders who can be trained in what AI is and what it's capable of doing. Like figure out what predictions need to be made and tell the machines to make those predictions and then know what to do with the predictions. So I think that there needs to be a massive reskilling of the workforce very quickly because there are going to be some roles and specifically tasks within roles that are going to be obsoleted very, very fast. And so there's an opportunity to reskill people. Now, as we know, universities aren't going to shift fast enough to do it.
mm,
In our own research with Drift, we do the state of marketing AI every year. We know it's not happening internally. I think it's like 13% of companies have any sort of internal AI training. We ask about what are the barriers to adoption. 2 years in a row, lack of education and training has been the number one answer. 63%, I think, of people said this year that that was the main issue. And that's a big part of the reason why we built the Piloting AI for Marketers series is like we know that people need it and there's nowhere to go for it. So our feeling was, well, let's build a step-by-step journey to get people there. So I think one, I think it's going to accelerate. The adoption number is going to jump. The reskilling is essential, and we have to do it. And then they get into looking at what they call, was it high performers? I think
yes.
whatever they call their classification. Yeah. So they get into what separates the companies that are seeing the disproportionate value creation from AI. And I liked the chart. So there's an exhibit, and again, the link will be in the show notes. You can check this out. Um, but it says organizations seeing the highest returns from AI are more likely to follow strategy, data, models, tools, tech, and talent best practices. And in strategy, the number one indicator is have a roadmap that clearly prioritizes AI initiatives linked to business value across the organization. Seems obvious, and yet find me one that has that. Like,
Mm,
think of, if you're listening to this, think about your own organization and say, is that true? Do we have that? Chances are no, and you probably don't even have anybody internally who can build it. That to me is like the biggest fundamental issue right now is then you go to number two, have an AI strategy that is aligned with the broader corporate strategy and goals. Senior management is fully aligned and committed to organization's AI strategy. Next is have a clearly defined AI vision and strategy. Like just take those, was that four, and like ask yourself as a listener, like, do you have any idea how to even get to those four things? Like chances are no. Like if you're talking to Fortune 500, sure. Like they maybe have hundreds of AI people on staff, AI engineers, researchers, ML engineers, whatever. Um, they can get there. They have CIOs, they have chief digital officers, chief data officers, they got everything. But if you're a middle market company and you have no one on staff that has AI or ML in their title, chances are you have no clue how to get to those four things. And so that to me is the major obstacle in 2023 and beyond is you have this critical need to understand AI and build a roadmap for the next few years. And we have a lack of business talent, not technical talent. We have a lack of business talent who get that and know what to do about it. And so that's, we've alluded to this before with the Institute and some of the work we're looking to do more in the consulting realm is there's just no answers. There's nowhere to go for this. And so we see almost like a necessity to build solutions to help organizations figure this stuff out because we talk to them all the time. They don't have a clue. And again, I have lots of CEO friends, lots of friends in VC and private equity, and nobody knows what to do. So that was my main takeaway is like, it kind of looks like the previous year's report. Like not a hell of a lot is different in terms of the findings. The numbers moved a little bit here or there, but the overall takeaways are about the same.
mm,
But I feel like the end of 2023 is a very transformational period where all of a sudden all these corporations are going to figure out that they need to understand and apply this stuff, and we're going to see a lot of change in these numbers and hopefully in their findings come fall of 2023.